Welcome back to Stock Traders Talk Radio here on a beautiful Tuesday night, February the 14th, 2012. I'm your host, STT. Joining me on tonight's program, I have Cop.
Hey, Mike, how are you?
I'm fantastic, sir. Also joining me on the program tonight, we have Hoss. We had Hoss. Is he coming back on or no? I guess not. Well, let's welcome back Sifikia.
Aloha.
Welcome back to the show, sir.
Good to be back.
Also joining me on the program tonight is QT Cal.
Hey, Mike.
How you doing?
Doing great. Looking forward to this next part.
There we go. Also, our special guest tonight, I want to introduce him first, Mikey.
Hey, guys. How y'all doing?
We are fantastic, sir. How about yourself?
Doing great. Hey, who was that last guy? Was that Sifikia?
Yep.
Yeah, that was
Holy
him.
smoke.
That was me, Uncle
I'm
Mikey.
telling you. What a technician. Holy smoke. I need to pay more attention.
Yep.
I need to take notes from you is what I need to. I can't wait for this interview, man. I've been waiting all week, buddy.
Okay, and also joining us on the radio program tonight, special guest, BigBake1. BigBake, are you on?
Hey, how you guys doing tonight?
Fantastic. How about yourself?
I'm not doing too bad at all.
That's good to hear. All right, Mr. Cop, you want to get us started on this segment, and let's see what happens.
All right, excellent. All right, everybody in the OTC market has curiosity about DTCC, how it works, how a company can get chill removes, all kinds of crazy stuff. And there's a lot of truth out there. There's a lot of BS, to say the least. And whatever's out there is we're going to kind of put the rest right now. Two of probably the biggest experts that you will ever find, bar none, are on this show, and that is Mikey and BigBake. And gentlemen, we're going to just roll right into it. What the hell is DTCC?
Go ahead, BigBake. Take this part.
Well, basically, the DTCC is just like your central bank for stocks. I mean, essentially, as a trader or as a shareholder, what you need to know about this DTCC is they are the electronic certs that you hold. Back in the day, you used to hold paper certs. Well, that doesn't work anymore because we're electronic now. We trade electronically, and so here's the DTCC. It's a corporation that was set up by a bunch of other private corporations that all basically divvied up responsibilities between each other and said, look, we need a central place to put all these shares electronically on deposit and be able to clear and settle and offer other services, deposits, and things like that, all up in one place. And, of course, the DTCC is also broken up in 10 subsidiaries, which, you got the NSCCC, the DTC by itself, and several others that follow behind it. But for OTC purposes, really you're only concerned with is NSCCC and the DTCC. So, here's where your stocks are being held, and this is who's clearing and trading your stocks based on the OTC, because nobody else is going to clear and sell your stocks by themselves unless.
Sure. Yeah. All right. So what is DTCC eligible?
The best explanation, and I put it up on your webpage earlier, is basically a corporation when they say that they want to trade stock, they have to be vetted, and basically it goes through FINRA and the SEC, and basically after everybody said that this stock is good to go, this we're going to trade this on the market, the OTC marketplace, you're essentially getting a pass to be able to be traded on this electronic system, and that's basically what eligibility is, and they're saying that you've met all the requirements. You're an actual business, you're a public business, and therefore they're vouching for you to be able to be traded on their electronic system.
I understand. Well, let's kind of shift over to Chill or Global Lock. And Mikey, the one thing about this format, because I know that both of you come from very different views on a lot of different stuff, but you come together and are two smart people. So by all means, jump in there whenever you hear a topic or something to the forum where you want to adjust on. Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, when I started this project back in, and let me tell you how it came about. As some of you may or may not know, I like BB stock. Everybody knows BB, and myself have a trading room. Okay, we've had it for a number of years, and we noticed that last year we were running into some problems. Okay, some of our traders were, in the fact that they were getting stuck in some stocks. They were in some stocks they couldn't get out of. They were getting hit with some large fees, and they were being fed information, a lot of which was incorrect. Okay. And that's how I got into it, because I was relying on a couple of brokers that were providing information, and it was not gelling according to what our brokers and our traders in our room were telling us. We were finding that they were getting hit with extraordinary fees on the settlement because of what Big Bake had talked about, the physical settlement. And let me just insert this. The difference between electronic and physical settlement is not unlike you going to pay for a bunch of stuff that you buy at Target. You can do it with a credit card, or you can hop in your car and go pay all these other people, and you've got to do it physically. And that's the best analogy that I can come up with that people can understand. As opposed to paying with a credit card or a check, somebody's got to physically deliver the money to the distributor, who's got to go all the way back to the manufacturer and do physical deliveries, okay? That basically is the best analogy that I can come up with, rather than electronic settlement, okay? So anyway, I digressed a little bit, but some of the brokers were charging some of these fees. And so all we had to rely on were the brokers, a couple of these brokers, and their list that they would get from Penson Clearing. And I don't mind naming names here. I don't really care. And there were a couple of clearing firms. Legent was another one that was creating issues. Those were the main two. Penson by far and foremost. And also, to some degree, there was Legion and a couple others, okay? So I found the DTC site, and this is, I guess, maybe a year ago, and so I did a search. First, I tried searching by symbol. Well, that didn't do any good. So I got the name of the company from the trader, a couple of companies, and then I searched using the correct name that they were listed as. And to get the correct name listed as, I went to OTC Markets, saw the correct name that they had listed there. I would then plug in that name and see what all would come up on the DTC site doing a search. Well, we found out that some of the stocks that they were being charged hundreds of dollars for, there was nothing on the DTC site, nothing. So I go back to some friends of mine that were trading the stock, and I said, call them back, call the broker back, and tell them there's nothing on the DTC site. They'd do that, and they'd come back and say, well, Penson says it's this. I said, well, Penson's wrong. I don't care who they are. I don't care how much money they got or how big they are or how much paper they trade. They're wrong. It's not on there. It's not on DTCC. So here's what you do. Number one, you file a complaint with FINRA. And so they did it. They filed a complaint with FINRA. Then you follow up with all of the links I'm going to give you showing that this particular stock is not on DTCC. Now I'm talking about trade for trade, okay? This is what I'm talking about. Big Bake probably forgot more about chills than any of us combined, okay? This guy is one of, let me just pull a plug in here for this guy. And we've not met, by the way. Pleased to meet you, Big Bake.
Mikey.
But he is one of a handful of people that know what the hell's going on this stuff, in addition to, and to be honest with you, I pale in comparison to what this guy knows, okay? I've maybe done more legwork and chasing this stuff down, but this guy is extremely good. I mean, extremely good. And he got on this bandwagon, I guess, what's it been now, Bake, about 6 months or so?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the big thing was is somebody turned me onto your list, and I was like, well, hey, here's somebody that's actually going in and pulling up each individual thing, which is a lot of work to pull up every single note.
Yeah.
And
well,
so awesome.
Anyway, let me just finish. So I told her, and I was talking to her and her husband. I called them, and I said, here's what you got to do. I'm going to give me the tell me what the guy said. So they sent me an email telling me what their broker had said. I said, all right, here's the way you reply to that, and give them these links. And I had a bunch of links listed, none of which had any of their stock on the DTCs. So lo and behold, they get a letter back saying that hey, they said they've made a mistake. I said, I know that. Now what are they going to do about it? Well, they decided to rebate them their fees. I said, you got to be kidding me. She said, no, getting our money back. I said, is that right? And so at that point then, I started looking for others. And so I had nothing to do. You know, when you get old, sometimes time just you got nothing to do, you know. And so I was in between golf season and in between ski season at that point. The Red Wings weren't playing, and so there was nothing for me to do. I figured, all right, I'm going to take a couple of days. I'm going to go through the DTC site, and I'm going to go all the way back. I'm going to do an exhaustive search of all the DTC symbols, seeing as how nobody can provide me a decent list, which was Zeco. Certainly their list was a train wreck. It was 55,000 stocks. Master Trader's list was just a complete mess. Some were right, some were wrong. So if you've got one or two that are wrong, you've got to throw the list out. It's of no value to you because all it takes is one or two that's wrong. So I said, okay, I'm going to have to do it myself. And you know the old saying, if you want anything done right, do it yourself. So I spent an entire weekend going through and searching DTC, all of the trade for trade, non-DTC, trade for trade, QSIPs that had been exited, okay? And at that point, I believe the initial list was maybe 110 or 105 or 110 stocks, okay? And so once you get that done, it's easy to keep up with it because every couple of weeks they'll put out a few more. And so you just add them to the list. And I think now we're up to 306 or 7 symbols are on there. All right, now, what have I done to help? Not much, really, other than try and alert traders that you got to be careful with these things. Has DTC talked to me? Not a lot. I've sent them emails, and I basically called them every name in the book for not giving anybody any notice on any of these. And then in a couple of cases, they made the list after the fact on a Friday after closing, and it was effective Friday afternoon at 4 o'clock. And so at that point, I called them everything but a dirt bag and asked them where the transparency was. And I know they were listening. Now, I didn't get a reply on that one. I got replies on other ones, so I knew I had the right guy. And I said, you know, if you were going to be transparent, if you were going to be fair, you would at least give 2 days' notice. And to my credit, they've done that a couple of times. They haven't done it every time. But
with that, though, Mikey?
Beg pardon?
With that though, I mean, isn't I've read the transcript of the round table, I've watched the video and all that other stuff. I mean, isn't it the fact that they don't want to give the information because?
No, they're not. They're not exactly right. They're not going to give the information. If you listen to the roundtable, and from their viewpoint, you really can't blame them because all they're going to do is give an out or a loophole to some pud knocker that wants to skirt the issue. Okay, so here is the thing: most of these companies, they know what the hell they've done wrong. Okay, let's just call a spade a spade. They know what they've done wrong. Okay, they're going to play dumb and they're going to send out press releases. Well, we're going to get this cleared up by Monday. No, they're not going to get it cleared up by Monday. It's rare. In fact, how many have we found, Bake, that have made it off the list? 2, 1, 2?
Off the chill and 5 off the global lock.
Yeah, and off the trade for trade, I think it's only 1, or is it 2?
It's 1 for the trade for trade.
Yeah, deep blue. And they're the only ones that have successfully ever come off. And here's what makes it even more interesting. Some of these guys.
Mikey, can I hold you right there for 1 second,
sure.
please?
Commercial?
No, not at all. I am sure that more than one listener out there has questions for either Mikey or Big Bake. If you're listening to us through Blog Talk Radio, obviously you can't type in the chat room there unless you're a member. So what you can do, if you want to ask any questions about tonight's subject, you can post it on our iHub board. That's Stock Traders Talk Radio. We are board number 23062. If you have any questions for tonight's show, we'll be more than happy to ask them for you. Just post them on the board, and we will interrupt the show and ask the question. Okay. Back to you, Mikey. Sorry.
Okay. Anyway, so some of these guys are using this as an excuse, or they're a little scapegoat. All right, well, we've been blocked, dude, and I don't know why. Come on. They know why. They're not going to be told. They're wanting something in writing from DTCC or SEC or FINRA or somebody telling them what they've done wrong. That's not going to happen. It ain't going to happen ever, okay? Most of these guys, and to be honest with you, I think the general consensus is most of these people have done illegal 504s. Okay, now that's not across the board, but for the most part, it's all about the issuance of shares. Okay, most of these people were doing 504s, and they were either not recording them or not waiting the year, and just doing it all wrong, and just sending paper out the door. Okay. Well, they finally got fed up with it because Pinson got caught with their finger in the cookie jar. And as a result, Pinson is in deep doo-doo, okay? And they took a lot of bad paper. They still got it on the books. And there's more issues coming up with. It's a whole nother story. We can talk about illiquid stuff. But the thing that's discouraging is that some of these companies are using this as an excuse now. This is what's really irritating. There's at least 1, maybe 2 companies that says we're proudly have suggested to their shareholders that they're now no longer on chill. Well, hell, they never were on chill. You know, and one of which, and I'm not going to name them. I don't want to get into a spitting contest with all of their shareholders. But they said they claimed they were on chill for 2 years and they're finally off. If you do a search on that particular company, I can't see that they were ever on it unless there's other information that has not come forth from DTCC where they're not listing everybody. But I think there's enough, especially after the roundtable. They're gonna name the companies. They're just not going to give the reason. Okay. Now, Big Bake can talk more about chills than I can. My thing has been more towards trade for trade, but there's a number of other issues that come up. It's not just on settlement. By the way, you can be trade for trade, non-DTC trade for trade. QSIP can be exited and not be chilled. Okay, this is where it gets confusing. And then you can be, if you're chilled, I mean, you've got nothing going to happen except for custodial, And in some cases, you won't even have custodial, meaning your broker won't even allow it, if you're chilled. In other cases, some of the brokers are allowing trading, which is basically custodial, but you're not going to see any paper movement ever again from those companies, ever.
No, but the big thing with it, those companies that are still allowing you to do it, those brokers are self-clearing, right? I mean, that's
yeah. Now here's the deal. Here's the problem with that. If you take a big basket of, let's use Ameritrade, okay, and they're Ameritrade for the most part, or better yet, let's use E-Trade, Fidelity, Schwab, okay, for the most part is allowing. Fidelity has never had an issue, and I got reamed out the other day. Some kid wanted to shove that up my throat, and I know they've never had an issue. That was never a part of discussion. E-Trade has really not had a great deal of problem. Ameritrade is starting to. It's a law of numbers. Ameritrade being the biggest online, they're going to have more of these. You get a big basket of shares and money and stock, okay? And in some cases, the little bit that they're seeing on the physical settlement is not an issue yet, okay? Except just recently, they're starting to disallow a couple of them. E-Trade, Fidelity, Scott, and Schwab are not there yet. Ameritrade is. As the numbers start to grow, it's going to be a problem. Big Bake, you agree with that?
Yeah, I'll tell you right now, from what I've seen, Penson is the biggest one. I mean, they're the second largest brokerage that's doing clearing right now in the world. And the only one that beats them out is Pershing. So with Penson, they are the largest online trading platform because they have so many platforms out there available. There's like 8 or 9 of them I can name off the top of my head that you can trade through for Penson clearing. The next problem is obviously, as you were saying down the list, was E-Trade, TD Ameritrade. Well, TD Ameritrade has made a policy, and they've been putting it out. And they're saying, if you get chill on you, forget about it. We're not going to trade you. In fact, we'll allow closing positions only. They will not do open positions. And so, essentially, if they've got anything on deposit on their books, they may allow some trades, but overall, their position is, if you're going to sell the stock, we're all for it. But if you're going to buy new positions, forget about it.
Right. That's correct.
Now, Big Bake, wherever you're standing, I would stand there. You're coming in super clear now. I assume you're on the cell phone. Let's talk about DTCC. I want to go back to one thing. They're a private company, right? What are they?
That's exactly it. I mean, you're talking about several firms that got together, and basically they've all kind of divvied up the responsibilities, and they created the DTCC. It's a private organization. It's not a regulatory body. It's not a enforcement arm of the SEC or FINRA, as many people want to play it out. I mean, they want to say that these chills or global locks are enforcement actions, but they're not. They are self-protection for the market that they're making. You got to remember, when you have a stock cert, it's no different than like title insurance for a piece of property. People have to go back through the entire history from the time of inception to the time it gets traded to you and ensure that everything's been met legally through the entire period. Well, the problem with these stocks that are coming out lately and the 504 abuse means they're not legal. And therefore, there could be a problem for these shareholders wanting to claim to these stock certs. They can come back on these companies. They can come back on the DTCC for allowing settlement and clearing of these certs. And that's where it comes to. It's the underwriting of these stock certs that they're really after.
So in basic terms, what the DTCC is doing is they're saying they're diminishing their risk.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly it. They've looked it over and said, you know what? Here's the possibility that somebody can come back and say we're liable for these stock certs because we're clearing them and settling them, and they weren't legal in the first place.
Understand. So the chances of getting off the chill and those type of things is slim to none because they don't want to take on that additional risk for a company that failed to do what they needed to do in the first place.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's not just the company. It's a lot of the blame I noticed was towards transfer agents, and transfer agents aren't doing their part, which is they're supposed to be vetting every time these legal counsels send out a opinion letter saying, hey, look, we need the restriction legend removed off these stocksters because this is a debt conversion and it's for Joe the plumber. Well, Joe the plumber shows up on 92 different other securities for the same plumbing job, and that's where they're getting at. They're going, hey, why is this guy showing up on 92 different other securities for doing a plumbing job? And this is a debt conversion they're looking at. They're like, it's obvious what's going on. This guy is loaning them money, and he's getting a huge discount on the shares, and therefore he's a loan shark. And that's what they're looking at. And it's costing shareholders tons of money because he's getting a massive discount for doing it. And that's what they're seeing.
Oh, yeah.
Well, yeah, what happened was back the reason it got started was back in the 50s and 60s, they were having issues with the clearing of paperwork, of stock certificates. And so I believe, and I don't recall the year that DTC, it was in the 70s, I believe, were set up to hold all of the paper stock certificates in one location, a centralized location. And they were supposedly going to automate the process, and they did a very good job of that and still do a pretty good job of that. But where the problem came in recently was that paper that they were holding, some of it was, less than admirable, and that's where Interpenson and others that are and so they're stuck with all this stuff, and they're not gonna take any more. They said, okay, that's it. You're off the list. You didn't make the list. We're going to do it. If you got some clearing to do, it's going to be physical settlement. You're going to pay the fees, which brings in, as what Bake was saying, the transfer agents have done a very poor job on their end also. It's not just the brokers and the clearing firms. It's the transfer agents that's done a haphazard job. I mean, we saw another deal on the DTC where, what the hell was that? Is it Continental Stock Transfer? I believe. I think it's Continental. Forgive me. I'll have to look. All of their stuff has been disallowed, and so the people that were holding stock, they got booted, and people that were holding stocks of the companies of which was using that particular transfer agent are SOL. It's gone. Not a thing they can do.
Yeah, Global Century was another one, and that's a big one. They got revoked on September 8th by the SEC for basically a lot of things. I mean, they wouldn't answer any of the questions from the SEC, and they weren't allowing anybody to come in and do audits of their records. And essentially, I mean, the DTCC knew already what was going on. These companies were doing business with Global Centric for a reason, because they had lax, regulations for sending in the certs. They didn't care. They were just allowing anything to go through. And so some of these companies were actually over-issuing what they were authorized. And that's where it gets to. I mean, one company in particular had 500.
Bake.
Yeah.
Hey, Bake, let me stop you. Can you call back on another line? I'm having trouble hearing you because I also want to hear what you've got to say.
Oh, no problem. How's it sound right now?
Great. There you go. Is that better?
Yeah, that's better.
I'm sorry about that. Global Century was the one I was talking about. They had a big issue because obviously they got revoked September 8th. And so what was happening is they were allowing companies to do whatever they wanted. And so some of these companies, and one, for example, issued over 500 million shares beyond their authorized limit. Well, this is causing problems,
wow.
obviously. And this is what they got shut down for. There was 11 companies that ended up getting stuck. And there was over 20, I think 26 at the time when they found out the cease and desist was coming down from the STTCC. And actually, the DTCC actually did their part. They actually offered up protection and said, look, we'll chill your stock for a period of time to allow you to transfer to a different transfer agent. Well, 11 of these companies didn't do that. And some of them tried, and they were denied because they were obviously compromised at that point. So Global Century is definitely one of the transfer agents.
I mean, here's the amazing part about this. I mean, this is a very intricate web. And, you know, we've been in the game for a long, long time, and we kind of know how this kind of works. And over time, you know, many people have done a lot of bad things when it comes to how to utilize a 504, the 144 restricted, and all of those things. And the bottom line is the DTCC is the one taking the brunt of this and stepping up when, quite frankly, you know, SEC enforcement of it probably wasn't that good for many, many, many years. And, you know, they were undermanned and all that stuff. But then as soon as the fraud team comes into play, right, you know, you got so many different players that are interested in this because on one side, you want the, you know, the, call it the market awareness professionals, the IR, the hedge funds, whatever, to have the ability to be able to buy discounted shares, you know, at a reduced rate, get all kinds of shares that you possibly can, as well as, you know, you guys know the system to a certain degree. Issuing the freeze, trading shares, getting them into the brokerage, and then a promotion of some form happens, and then they're dumped into a run, and next thing you know, Joe the plumber and the moms and grandmoms just lost 90% of their investment because they just got scammed due to non-disclosure, disclaimer, not even understanding the system. I mean, that's the reality of this. So those people that did this have hurt this for everyone. And in most cases, I mean, we can sit there and look at, you know, I'm a big fan on if the authorized share count is raised for any reason, it's to dump shares, period. And there's no other reason to do that. And it, you know, and the red flags go up with this, and there's a lot of protective measures going into place to, you know, to allow, you know, the common investor, if you will, to be able to do the right things. And, you know, you don't hear the common investors unless they're in the stock complaining about any of this stuff that's going on. You notice that?
Well, Cop, you know what? Here's the deal. In my opinion, this is going to get a lot of the riffraff out. And a lot of these folks are hanging on for dear life. They think some of these things are going to be, everything's going to be okay in 90 days. It won't be. Some of these, it's going to even get worse. Some of these that are out of pension, and they can't be bought with Ameritrade, they can only be sold, you're going to see the other ones eventually start coming in. You're going to see the sooner or later, Fidelity, Scott Schwab, E-Trade, whomever else is out there, are going to get fed up with this stuff, and they're going to start charging also, and eventually it's going to come around. There's going to be, right now, I think we're looking at about 306 or 7 on the non-DTC trade for trade QSIPs exited, okay? So that's 306, and I'll use the word pitiful old stock, okay? And short, you can use POS, okay? That we don't have to really deal with too much anymore, okay? Now, those are still tradable in some way, in some form or fashion, with everyone but Penson, okay? However, there's a lot of those that, and some of those get on a big move. You know, I don't know why I don't trade them. I suppose if I were to trade one of those, and I saw that the chart was right, and there's a big pump going on the thing, I might take a one-day position, but I'd close it out same day. Okay. Now this will not be. I will not be everybody's favorite guy by saying this, but I've said it all along, you know, that at some point, if there's a delay, okay, say you're in, let's just use Scott Trade or E-Trade, and you're in stock symbol dirt, okay, which cannot be traded through Pinson. And there's a delay. You're stuck in dirt. Okay, all right, well, they didn't get it news out, or they didn't do this, or they didn't do that, or that group didn't start, or whatever. Then before you know it, stock starts trickling down. And before you know it, there's whining on the message boards, and there's calls in investor relations. The CEO can't be found. He's missing in action. And before you know it, this thing has trickled all the way back down to trip something, okay? And it's non-DTC, trade for trade. Everybody says it's okay. Then all of a sudden, like we saw a couple weeks ago, the full chill comes in. Then you can't even get out of it. Okay, so there is the problem with some of these things. Okay. Now, here's the upside. This is cleaning up the market. Make no mistake about it. This is, and it's going to work because these people that have not been filing, they've not been transparent, they've not been filing their, if you look on OTC markets, on all of these 306, okay, see how many have actually filed a legitimate 504. Very few, less than 10 have a legitimate 504. And you know damn good and well this is one of the bigger issues, is that they've done some illegal dilution and not told anybody, or kept it as muddy as they could. And this is what irritates everybody. This is what's mucked up the penny market, which was a great little speculative market until recently. Now it's coming back. I also follow the OTCBB numbers, okay? You don't have near as many market makers making a market anymore. You don't have near as many positions. But as of the last couple of 3 months, we're seeing a gradual turn off the bottom on dollar volume, transactions, and share volume. So it's coming back after the catastrophic 2011, slowly but surely. And here's another point I'd like to make. If you listen to the SEC roundtable, and they had all the big boys there. I mean, all the big boys were there. They're not trying to kill this market, much to, in spite of what some people say, they're not trying to kill it. They're trying to clean it up. And I wish them well, because there's some value there.
Only let me slow you down there, Mikey. I mean, here's the thing, okay? All right, and you guys know me pretty well in the fact that I'm a big Momo player, right? I like high volatility. I like stocks where I can make gains. Now, granted, I know how to play them, and I've been doing this for a very, very long time. I would probably say that probably 30 of those 300 I have played this year, because they can reap 200, 300, 400, 500, 600% in stocks. Yeah. Now, that doesn't make it ethically right or anything like that. I'm not judging that company or what they're doing. I'm taking an opportunity to invest money in something I know that's going to make me money. Okay, that's the reality.
A trading vehicle.
A trading vehicle. Actually, correct. And, I think we all know that, I'm not going to throw a percentage, but, you know what, I will. Let's go with 80%. 80% of these are crap, okay?
Right.
And the 20% that are good are being damaged and harmed because of the other 80, okay, 80%, right? Now, when a company does all the right things, okay, they do the filings, they file everything, they got their lawyers and all that other stuff, right? There's this misconception that you do a good business, you get a business plan, you do, strategic objectives, you follow them, you reach your milestones, you reach your gates, you do all that other stuff, and your price per share will match that. That's not true.
No.
It doesn't happen. They're not reflected, because the people in the OTC that are trading these stocks want volatility, or they would be on the big boards. That's the bottom line to this. And that's one perspective. The other perspective is the market awareness professionals that you have out there all over the place. Many won't even take free trading shares anymore, which is probably huge, because they're afraid of getting in trouble, and all these other type of things. Collectively, you have one entity, the DTCC, that is imposing, it's bringing certain things to light. Now, granted, the SEC has gone after promoters and market awareness professionals that have, in the big money ones that have actually failed to do it. But it's bigger than that. It's the 504 guys. It's the hedge funds. It's the CEO of the companies. It's the CFOs. It's the friend of the CEO. I mean, it's all over the place. So when you're talking about cleaning up something, this is what I see right now. Okay, the person that is in the stock today, whether let's go with let me I don't know, a non-DTC eligible stock that they're in today, is sitting here listening to this conversation and going, okay, I took the risk, right? Because it's all gambling. I think we can all admit that to a certain degree. The playing field's a little different. And in reality is, who's being punished? The company? The trader that actually owns the stock right now? You see what I'm saying?
Sure. Oh, yeah.
The whole system is, and I get what you're saying. I think it's absolutely right that they should do everything they can do possibly to clean up the market. But it's bigger and deeper than what they're talking about. Because in the DTCC, and I don't want to take this conversation over in any shape or form, but there's one huge thing the DTCC is doing. They're saying, look, I don't give a crap. I'm not taking on this risk, and I'm done with it. I mean, that's really what they're doing. And in essence, what's happening is everybody else has to create the burden, but they all have to share it to a certain degree. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah. And that's what they're doing. Go ahead.
Well, I put up a post up on the DD.
You're breaking up, Big Bake, again, buddy.
I'm sorry. I put up a post up on the DD research board about this. And essentially what's happened is everything's been handed over to the DTCC, though, as far as their responsibility. I mean, they're the only entity that's concerned about what's going on, is the way I look at it. I mean, the transfer agents basically said, screw it, we're not gonna do our job. The legal counsels for a lot of these places, they're doing whatever they want to do, which is basically they get paid for every letter they generate. I mean, the one lady on that panel, she said the one guy put out 700 different letters, and he was getting paid anywhere from $100 to $200 per letter. I mean, it was crazy stuff, and it was just insane the amount of money these lawyers are getting paid to write up, to add legal counsel for these things. And so the system's corrupt. But the problem is the responsibility ends up back at, the depository. And they're the ones that are biting the entire thing. And none of these clearing firms, these self-clearing firms, unless they are chilled, these securities that are chilled, they're not clearing these things. They're not settling these things. They're using the DTCC like they're supposed to. They're allowing all this stuff to fall right onto that one component because they're not going to do it unless they have to do it. And when they get shoved into the corner, they have to do it on their own, that's when they start doing their own policies. And that's what we were talking about earlier, where Penson said, screw it, we're not going to do it anymore. And TD Ameritrade said, you know what, we're not going to allow you to buy, but we'll allow you to sell. And it's gotten so bad now, I've seen a global chill or a global lock placed on a company that E-Trade stopped everything. E-Trade has been the easiest company of them all. I've never heard of any trading issues with E-Trade. Yet, as of this week, I found out that they're stopping trading on some of these global locks.
Yeah.
Wherever you are right now, don't move. It's coming in perfectly clear.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, I'm starting to hear a couple of them on E-Trade also. There'll be more of them.
Yeah, and it's exactly it. It's just going to be more of them. I mean, eventually everybody gets tired of holding the costs for these things and having to pay out the bottom line. I mean, the DTCC has been eating the costs on these things, and they had to up their payment on these. I mean, it used to be 0.000006. Well, they moved that up to 0.000009 now. They've moved it up 33% for these trades. Because
well, how many zeros was that? Was that quad 9 now?
That's quad 5.
quad 5. Okay, all right.
Yeah.
And that's the big thing about that, BigBake, is a lot of people don't understand that when you went from the paper clearing to the DTCC, the fees were much, much higher. I mean, the DTCC has actually been one of the best things to allow, electronic trading. It's like sliced bread,
Yeah, and that's their biggest selling point. They're like, hey, look, we're making trading affordable for everybody to trade anytime they want. And back in the day, when you had to call in to your broker, you're going to pay a massive brokerage fee to trade a stock. That's why there was many, many long-term holders, because you didn't trade in and out of a stock because of what you saw. You held it for 10, 20, 30 years. That's what your belief was. You're holding it for the long term. Nowadays, the mentality is not that far.
Go ahead. Well, back to this 80-20 thing, which is very much a factor, Cop. And you mentioned it. Does it hurt the 15 or 20% that are real legitimate companies? You betcha it does. Classic example, a guy that you interviewed a couple of weeks ago, real deal, absolute, positively the real deal. Needs some upstart money. Needs some money to get started. He's doing a legitimate financing. He clearly was very transparent about that. It's in his filings. This guy is being hurt by this, okay? And as a result, it's affecting him too. He too is on the non-DTC trade for trade list, okay? So there's something in the mix somewhere that was not done properly. Okay, I don't know what the hell it is. Going back to the SEC roundtable, we don't know what it is. So there are some very good little companies that have gotten mixed up in this and have jaywalked a little bit, and it's gotten them on the list. And I don't know if they're ever going to get off. They're going to have to. There's a couple of things I think some companies can do to try to get off. Now as far as a full chill, man, I don't know. I have no earthly idea what anybody could do. I know one company that has hired at least 2 attorneys, and they've spent at least $40,000 in legal fees to get off the chill list. Okay, they've not been successful yet. On that's full chill now. As far as the non-DTC trade for trade, yeah, there's a couple of things that they can try. There's no guarantees, and I'm not going to list it here. I'll tell you guys what it is, and here's what I'm going to suggest to some of the companies that maybe will be listening to this by way of some shareholder that's pretty irritated with you. I'm going to suggest that those companies get a hold of Stock Traders Talk Radio, and they'll provide. I'll have you guys provide a link of what I think would help them. I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to dumb down by giving it out on the internet here. But I think there are a couple of things that can be done that will help. Okay. And because I've heard some of these kids, I've seen what they write, and I'm not gonna give them ammunition to call DTCC. Hey, dude, can you get dirt off? No, I'm not gonna do that. So after the show is over, I'll give you guys the link of what, in case some of these companies, and I'd be careful to make sure it's a company calling you and not some irritated kid that just wants a movement on the stock. Because there are some real issues here for good companies, and they're stuck. And in some cases, what makes it even more interesting is that they're fully reporting too, and they're on the list also.
It's interesting that you say that, because there's a couple trends, and the beauty to this entire conversation that we have is, depending on who you are, you have a completely different perspective. right? If you're somebody that trades big boards, you need to down look at pennies. If you're somebody that's a penny and you trade volatility stocks, or you're a company professional or a CEO or all that, everybody has a completely different perspective of this, and whatever's advantageous to them. Now, what's happening a lot is a lot of these companies get a DTCC, non-DTCC eligible, and then all of a sudden there's a new entity that the company kind of goes belly up. They've already increased the AS. They've issued all the outstanding shares. Somebody new comes into the picture and says, I'm going to merge this company into that shell, if you will. Mm-hmm. And they're in that situation, and they want to be able to do a reverse split. Or the new going thing is, I want to change the name or a cuspid symbol. Yeah. Right? Let's kind of talk about that real quick, because that's what they're trying to do to get around it. Won't work.
I can tell you right now, there's a couple of scenarios I found that have worked. I mean, I can tell you.
Really?
I hate to mention a ticker symbol, but I will go ahead and give it out to you because it did pull it off, and I was surprised. CNUV, it turned into SGLN, and there's nothing on DTCC restricting that stock from trading with its new QSIP number now. And it surprised the hell out of me. I figured that it was...
Oh, okay. That's quite a surprise for me too, Bake.
That's what I said. I couldn't believe it either. It was surprised the hell out of me that it didn't follow over to a new notice going out to participants saying, look...
Yeah, because that's been the norm, where I've seen it on 2 or 3 cases where they'll try a name change, then they'll throw out a new QSIP, and then they'll disguise it any way they can, and it hasn't worked. So you're saying in at least one case it has worked.
In one case it has worked, and it surprises the hell out of me. I don't know how they pulled it off, but they were on the list from December 9th, and all of a sudden by January 29th, they were a different name, symbol, and yet they were trading without any restrictions.
I'll be.
All right, let me give you the next one. Okay, I have a company that is now non-DTC eligible. I've issued so many shares. I got a 3 billion AS, 3 billion OS. It's maxed out. Can't reverse split anymore. I'm just absolutely stuck. And I roll out. I got another shell attached, subsidiary. I roll all the assets into the subsidiary under a new stock ticker. What are they doing? What? I mean, how does that whole situation pair out when it comes to the non-DCC? It doesn't, does it?
No.
Well, it depends. Go ahead.
Go ahead, Mikey. Hit at it.
Well, it depends. If it's a dividend, if it's a spinoff as a dividend, I don't think it's going to fly. Okay. If it's a new company, an entirely new entity that's buying out, and it's rolled into the new company, it's a possibility that will work fine. They're buying out the assets only.
But here's the thing, though, Mikey. I mean, and this is really important. I think that because this is where I think the SEC is going. Okay, the OTC, as we know it, is changing, and I would bet that within probably the next 2 years, that if you don't provide financials, okay, that you're not going to be trading. Right. That's where I think this is all going. Okay, because there's many of these companies that their financials look like something my kid could do. And it's not to be an ass, but, if your company's based off of underwater basket weaving or selling sand from the Sahara or, ice to Eskimos, which half these, because it's all a story, right? I mean, let's just say it for what it is. I mean, some of these things don't exist. The assets don't exist, and we're trading them. But we're trading them for the volatility. That's the part that's just the most baffling concept. And it depends on who you are especially on the message boards and all that. Call them scams, call them whatever you want. You shouldn't be doing it. I get that. And I could argue that somebody shouldn't go to Vegas and play blackjack. Okay, but that's what we're doing. And depending on who you are, is this issue is everyone's trying to figure out how to get around this issue. That's really the truth to it.
Yeah, oh yeah. I don't know that they're going to be able to in the normal scheme of things. These 306 or 8, whatever it is, stocks, very, very few are going to be. It's going to be any different a year from now. You know, there's. I saw a press release out the other day of one that had just recently made the list, and you know, guy puts out a press release. Our attorneys are on it. We should have it cleared up by Monday. That ain't going to happen. And, you know, of course, every time I get one of those, then I got, 15 private messages, and they want to talk about it, and they want to do it via PM. So I don't, you know, that. So I'm not going to, you know, I'm not gonna take a guess. That's why I just kind of, in some cases, I don't even answer. But I think overall, and it's going to take some time, the transparent companies that are reporting, or at least attempting to report, that are better than yield on OTC markets, and again, that's another private company. They're not a regulatory authority in any way. That's the old pink sheets. It's OTC markets. They're helping quite a bit because they're trying to, as best they can, legitimatize the small cap pink sheet market. Okay, they do the best they can, and I've given them grief for the $3,000 a year that you got to pay the guys just so you don't have a skull and crossbones on you. I mean, it's almost like they bend you over for that, but they're forcing you to be more transparent. And for that feature, it's going to cost you $3,000 or $3,500. And that's the first step that a company ought to be taking. They're going to have to start being a little more transparent. Going to have to do the filings. If they're doing a Reg D or whatever it is, they're going to have to file it. They're going to have to show it, and they're going to have to let shareholders know exactly what the share structure is before these guys will start trading this thing. No more hiding of shares.
But okay, I'm a new company and I'm a new CEO. I have my shell. I start doing all my stuff, right? And most of the time, you have your first phases or your R&D stages of doing what you're getting ready to do. Okay, you're not making revenues. There's not money coming in. Right. So you're using share. I mean, the reason you went public is to raise capital to make your business grow. So essentially what's happening is all these restrictions, all these lawyers, all the OTC, all these things, you're talking $100,000 it could be in a year. Mm-hmm. So immediately out of the gate, they're strangle holding the what you would capitalism, if you will, of a company trying to get where they got to get to. So it's no wonder these companies aren't issuing shares out the back door. I mean, yeah, it's amazing. It's the whole thing is absolutely amazing.
You know, and the people that's hurt are the new companies that are coming on board. You know, and they have secured some financing, some legitimate, some honest financing from honest financiers out there that want to do it legitimately and legally, and they're out there. There's tons of them out there. You've got the backdoor guys too, and those backdoor guys, unfortunately, are the ones that are going to get hung. You know, the legitimate guys. Those are the guys I actually feel bad for those because these are the guys that are backing some of these legitimate companies that actually have a product, that are actually trying to manufacture that product and take that product to market, as opposed to an idea or some junior mining stock that's, got no chance of ever going into production, none, as opposed to somebody selling a product to a Walmart, say. Two different ball games, two different animals, and unfortunately, they're both stuck. One I feel bad for, the other one not so much.
Well, let's do this, gentlemen. We're closing in on the top of the hour. is there any way or any place where outside entities can reach you if you want to be reached to be able to get some information or, anything of that form? Do you guys do that?
I don't. But I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll provide a few links to Stock Trader Talk Radio, and I'm going to suggest that these guys probably need to contact you anyway, because you guys are doing it right. You're doing something different. You're giving a whole new dimension to discussion, as opposed to a message board or as opposed to emails. You're bringing in a whole new dimension. I can't tell you how thrilled I am for what you guys are doing, because you're not just bringing in CEOs, you're bringing in discussions like this. More people ought to be doing this. I hope you guys are a moonshot, I'm telling you. And so as a result, I hope you guys get some calls from some CEOs. I hope they do some interviews with you, because you got a nice little thing here. I like it. I like it a lot. And I'm tough, too, on some of these guys. I don't trust me on this. If you've ever heard me on a CEO phone call, I give these guys no ground whatsoever. I don't suck up to anybody. Whenever somebody's doing something right, and you guys are doing it right, I wish you all the success in the world. And tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to send you over a couple of links. If you get some calls from some of these companies that are interested in looking at a little more for a little more information, you'll have it at your disposal.
All right, Mikey, I appreciate that very, very much. The one thing I do definitely want to figure out where it is where is this master non-DTC list that you have, or the list?
Well, there is a little known message board, and I guess I can say this. There's a little known message board on iHub, and it's called Two Old Farts Reality Room. Well,
I figured when you were discussing back trading in the 50s and 60s, I hope you weren't being serious that you were.
I was pretty close. Myself and another guy were a couple of old farts, and we said, all right, enough of this nonsense. And we just kind of named it the No BS, No Spin Zone. And let me just real quick. I know we got to go. The three main brokers that put out lists, and they're all incorrect, is Echo, Master Trader, and Trading Direct. Okay, I have gotten a call. First, start off with a private message, then it went to an email, then it went to a phone call from at least one of those guys wanting to know where I got my list. I said, I didn't get it from Pinson. I made it up myself. And by the way, yours is wrong. Oh, well, we got ours from Pinson. I said, yeah, you tell Pinson theirs is wrong, too. Mine's right. And so anyway, it's like I told him, I said, you know what, there's days I can't trade worth a flip. I trade with emotion. I forget where I am. I get lost in crowds, and I smoke too damn much. But on this non-DTC stuff, I got this one down. So anyway, guys, that's it.
I appreciate it, Mikey. Now,
yeah,
Big Bake, how about yourself?
You pick this up. I'm sure Big Bake and I, in a couple of weeks, you want to throw a little more out there. We can make some time.
I think that would be great. I think because you know what's going to happen. You guys are going to get tons of questions. There's going to be all kinds of stuff. And, based off what the two of you are receiving on this, I think we do a part 2 and more of an agenda that's associated with what you guys are hearing, seeing, or what you think is a more viable direction to go with part 2.
Well, let me tell you what's going to make a whole other show, too, Cop. We've got an upcoming issue that's going to be more of an issue. Pinson is the only one doing it right now, but there's going to be 2 other brokers that are probably going to announce in the next month, and that's illiquid stocks, okay? And this will make the fees that companies that shareholders are being charged for non-DTC trade for trade physical settlement. These fees coming up on the illiquid market surcharges will make those trade for trade fees look like a choir boy. We're not talking hundreds of dollars. We're talking thousands, possibly $10,000 for one trade. If you overshoot the market mark on illiquid on an illiquid stock, they're going to be looking for you or the shareholder to pick up the difference in the liquidity.
Wow. Appreciate it, Mikey.
That would be something we could talk about up the road too.
Absolutely. Big Bake, do you have anything you'd like to add as far as get in touch with you or anything like that?
I'm up on iHub. I got a lot of good fans out there too. Some good, some bad, but hey, I take it with stride. I've lived through it all.
Your real name, man.
That's right.
Don't tell them where you live, Big Bake. They all know where I live. He's so old, they don't care. Thanks, guys. It's been very, very nice. Good show.
Thank you, and I appreciate you guys taking the time out. I mean, this was very informative, and I'm sure everybody that listened is scratching their head, going, "Man, I had no idea." And it's not an easy subject to get wrapped around. It goes in depth, and it really depends on what perspective you're coming from, and and those type of things. So, gentlemen, thank you so much, Mike.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
What do you think? Good stuff, huh?
Oh, it's fantastic.
You guys just keep up the good work. Love it.
We'll do our best.
Okay. See you later. Thanks.
All right, gentlemen. Thank you.
Right, bye-bye.
Great stuff right there, and he definitely needs a follow-up, without a doubt. A couple weeks down the line, let's clear our heads and catch up to what we learned tonight and look at something new in a couple of weeks.
Absolutely.
But that was real good stuff, and I don't know if the other guys are still on with us. Iffy or Haas, do you have any comments on it?
Good stuff.
Good stuff.
Fantastic.
I'd like to point out one key thing. Pud knocker is not a cuss word. I'm going to make that clear.
Is it even a word?
I don't know.
But I like it.
I almost lost it when Mikey said that. Like, oh, man.
Wow.
Be clear about that.
I do want to make a comment on this because I've personally had some issues over the course of the last year. I used Lightspeed, which was a Penson-based broker, and, I held some of these non-DTCC stocks and stocks that had chills placed on them. And, I searched for a good 4 months before I even found a broker that would accept just a share transfer out of Penson. So not only do you have these ridiculous fees, $500, $700 to sell a stock where you might be losing 50% of any proceeds you get from the sale, it's extremely difficult to even transfer these penny stocks from one broker to another. Even stocks that don't have a chill on them or are DTCC eligible. So that's just something to keep in mind. And the broker that I found that accepted it was Schwab. If any of you are listening and looking for a broker and you can't find one who will accept some share transfer from a Penson account or other account, give Schwab a call, try to set up an account there, because that's the one that finally ended up working for me after I tried about 5 or 6 others.
Awesome.
I'm done.
Good stuff, gentlemen. And QT, if you're still here.
No, we lost QT somewhere along the line here. She fell off, and I had to boot her before she drug us all down with her.
Aww.
I understand.
I gave her a chance. I couldn't wait any longer.
Oh well, I think she had like steak and lobster waiting for her.
Oh yeah.
Her husband was making that for her, so I don't feel too sorry for her.
Absolutely. Don't forget, tomorrow night we have yet another CEO interview coming up. Thursday, Stock Spotlight as of right now. And we're going to take it from there. Guys, it's been a long night. It's going to take a long time to cut this video up, that's for sure. And we'll get some job. Oh, that's right. That's my job. Jeez. Guess I'll be up to midnight tonight.
Oh.
Will help.
Oh, sure.
We'll talk through it.
As soon as we hang up, Haas runs, Cop runs, and Civicia run. All run for the hills.
No, we'll be there to help you with that.
Every single
lies. I spam it out every night.
Yeah.
A big shout out to BigBake and Mikey. I mean,
no doubt.
We all know that they're the two of the best in this arena, and for them to take the time out to really what they're doing is they're talking to investors. I mean, that's what they're doing. And they're trying to give everybody a clue to where, look, this is the reality of the situation. You can either believe it or not believe it, but I'm going to try to help you. Your choice. Mm-hmm. It's really what they just did. And that was a very unselfish act of theirs, and I really, really appreciate it. And, I'm sure all our listeners do as well.
Well, not only that, but now they could just, instead of answering questions, they could just point them to the video and say, go listen.
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely. We explained it all already. Just listen to the video, and we've answered it all there. They did a great job. Okay, guys, I'm going to wrap up the show right now. It's been 2 hours and 10 minutes of show tonight. One of our longest shows ever. I think we did a 3-hour once. Only once. And never again. So we will not drag our listeners out any longer. From all of us here at STT Radio, oh, by the way, I am going to drag it out for a couple seconds. Hopefully next week we are going to have a revamped stocktraderstalk.com. A little bit more user-friendly, more to the point, get you to the videos, get you to what we're buzzing about, and also listing what will be coming up on that night's show. So look for that. Hopefully next week. We're in maybe 50% done right now. So hopefully next week. Besides that, from all of us here at STT Radio to all of our listeners out in STT Radio land, we're wishing you the best in all your trades. And may your portfolio be green. This is STT Radio, and we are out.
Aloha. Thank you for listening to Stock Traders Talk Radio. All views and topics talked about on Stock Traders Talk Radio is solely for entertainment purposes. We are not professional financial advisors and always recommend you seek the advice of a professional financial advisor. Never invest in any stock featured on our show unless you can afford to lose your entire investment. The information contained on our show is based on sources which we believe to be reliable, but is not guaranteed by us as being accurate, and might not be a complete statement or summary of the available data. Stock Traders Talk Radio advises that the investments in companies profiled are commonly considered to be high risk, and use of the information provided is at the investor's sole risk. Thank you for listening to Stock Traders Talk Radio.